Hey guys, and welcome to my review of the Nintendo 3DS XL. You also notice a PS Vita there, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And so this review is going to be in a bit of a different format than my other reviews, as it's not going to be a straight-up review, but more of me talking out of my butt about the 3DS XL system, which of course also extends to the Nintendo 3DS itself. But yeah. So we'll get into this straight away. So we open up the system and we see the two screens. Now, I'm gonna complain about this system a little bit. But before I do, I want to preface this by saying that when you're buying a system, I do find it pretty absurd that people are complaining, "Oh, the Vita sucks. Why would anybody buy the Vita? The Vita should fail. It's already failing. Lol. 3DS forever," or, you know, vice versa from the people who love the PS Vita. I love the PS Vita, and although I will be complaining about the 3DS XL today, I don't think that anybody should care what anybody else is buying, because that doesn't really mean anything. I believe that people are free to buy what they want. I've bought both systems, and you don't see me fighting with myself at home. Although I do have some regrets about buying the 3DS on launch day. Some of the regrets that I didn't feel with the Vita, that's aside from the point. Those are just, you know, personal opinions that I hold, and certainly the thing that I found is that when most people are talking about the, you know, having a 3DS and not having a Vita, a lot of the complaints are really that these people are poor, and when I say poor, I don't mean that they live in boxes or anything, but it's more like they had a decision to make. They could only afford to buy one system, and they're trying to kind of justify their purchase to themselves and openly that they've chose the better system simply because they didn't want to buy or couldn't afford a second system. And I don't believe that should come into any kind of argument. The fact that, you know, you don't want to buy or can't afford the other system. And of course, like I said, this goes both ways. I mean, if someone bought a PS Vita, they're like, "Oh, I don't know why anybody would buy a 3DS." Well, people will buy a 3DS because they have, you know, Nintendo games or some other console games. The same reason why someone would buy a Vita, because the Vita has some games that 3DS is bound not to. So, with that out of the way, just to show you guys that I am, you know, really trying to be fair about this, we'll get into some of the plates regarding what I feel are some of the 3DS's issues. Now, with the original 3DS, the screen was painfully small, but as you can see, I've upgraded to 3DS XL a couple months ago, and the screen size is nearly that of the Vita. So I'm super happy about that. There's absolutely no problem. You know, I feel like an older, gentrified man. I don't think that was the right word, but I don't feel like re-editing my review. So here we go. Of some of the minor complaints that I think people have already gone over was the complaints that the eShop is simply stupid. The layout is dumb. It's difficult to find games. I remember this game, Liberation Maiden, was a game that I did not recall the name of, but I remember people talking very fondly about how the game played. It wasn't up my alley, so I didn't really enjoy it as much as everybody thought I would. But I couldn't find this under any of the categories, action, shooter, or 3D games, which is a shame because this is a 3D game that's a shooter, and it could also have been considered a simulator, but I don't think I found it there. Yeah, I mean, this was a game that I picked up maybe a month ago, and so I had to go online and ask random forum people if they remembered a game that was in 3D where you played as a humanoid plane that was an anime girl, and you shot stuff, and it was a 3DS eShop exclusive. And you know, I'm not saying that the day wait was painful, but the fact that I had to ask a forum rather than finding on the eShop is pretty dumb. I also bought my original 3DS, which I've already resold, on launch day, and I just remember how daft some of the categories were. For example, there would be like a category called games that begin with T, and I just thought that was incredibly incredibly stupid, because I don't think I've ever woke up one day like, I really want to play a game that begins with a T. I wonder if I can find one today. Oh, perfect, here's a category. And so I'm not sure if, I mean, was that supposed to be cute? Because I don't think little kids or whatever really care about what letters their games begin with. But anyway, yeah, finding game, extremely tedious, extremely cumbersome. eShop is dumb. We've got that argument out of the way. I guess another issue that people have with the system is lack of significant third-party support. I know some of you will get on my case, oh, but there's support from Sega, there's support from, you know, whatever, and another handful of companies, but, you know, when you're looking at the third-party support for traditional consoles, and we're talking about PS3s and Xbox, this handheld doesn't really have that kind of support, and it seems more like a system that is best for a best platform for Nintendo's games rather than anybody else's. And so, you know, this console unfortunately just became a Mario Kart system. Wasn't too happy with Super Mario Brothers 2 because it just seemed like more of the same, and they didn't really introduce anything that was too interesting into it. And Coin Rush was boring. So, but you know, again, this is my opinion. I'm not attempting to convert anybody to my side. If you enjoyed Super Mario, and this is not condescending at all. If you enjoyed it, you enjoyed it. And you know, if you love the game, you know, that's amazing, and I'm glad that you found a game that fits what you wanted. And truly, as sarcastic as that sounds, there are, you know, kind of tiny features and kind of weird features, but that's aside from the point. Now, to the main meat of my rant against the 3DS and the DS system in general is that when the DS first came out, having a second screen seemed almost revolutionary, because at the time, you know, there wasn't much use of touchscreens. The only thing that you can get it on was maybe a PDA. I'm not sure, but I feel like touchscreen phones really didn't come into vogue yet. So, and I'm not even sure if the iPhone was out yet. But yeah, so having a second screen where you would imagine, oh my god, the gaming possibilities that you can get from this is that, you know, you can overlay a map here, or you can have a bunch of buttons, or you can do other stuffs. But, you know, in reality, it seems like almost no games use the second screen to its fullest potential. And when I say fullest potential, you know, I don't mean that I necessarily want this screen to be doing 300 things at once. It's the fact that most games seem to just use this as a second screen to show your statistics, you know, like your health or whatever. Because when you're playing the game up top here, it is difficult. And when I say difficult, I don't mean like third world, I'm starving kind of difficult, but it, you know, yeah. I'm not sure why I use that example. But yeah, it distracts from the game to have to look down here for any crucial stats like, you know, or whatever. But yeah, so the second screen was really underutilized, and you know, the biggest problem with getting into a dual screen system is that you've locked yourself into a dual screen system, because if you ever make a one screen system, anything that uses this second screen, you might not be able to play anymore without significant publisher intervention. That is to say, they have to remap buttons somehow, and that'll only work if your console has enough buttons or the options for it. And, you know, it would probably need a lot of rejiggering. And this was a problem that I realized with the initial DS system. And I think it would have been a lot better had Nintendo realized what they're doing to their own console with the DS. But yeah, you know, now we have the 3DS, which also has a second screen, but also has to deal with this 3D function, which means that the next iteration of DS probably needs to be 3D and dual screen again. And this means that there's entire libraries that you would not be able to play if they only made a one-screen system. However, the way Nintendo seems to be going, they seem to be really focused on their dual screen capabilities, as we can see with the Wii U with their second controller that also has this touchscreen. And unfortunately, I'm not sure that this is the wisest decision that they could have done. I mean, we see that we're still playing the PS3, PS2, and upcoming PS4 games fine with just a normal controller. And I think cluttering up the controller with a second screen along with the price that would come with making a second screen in that system is a poor decision. Now, I know that the Wii U system and the 3DS, this second screen probably doesn't cost that much nowadays, but it's just really bizarre that whoever the head honchos in the dev team over there didn't try to say something like, hey, you know what, guys? Not a lot of DS games use that second screen really impressively, and we're finding the same thing with the 3DS. Do we really want this to do this with our Wii U system? Because right now you realize what they've done is they've created a bizarre ecosystem where they are kind of battling against time and battling against themselves, because whatever the next iteration of the Wii U is going to be will be forced to use that second screen again, and the next iteration of this will be forced to use a second screen, and so they're kind of forcing a markup of their own system, which is very bizarre. But yeah, I remember there was actually a developer recently which kind of was the impetus of me creating this video, complaining about how the second screen and the 3D features kind of didn't really do anything, and I'm liable to agree with that assessment. On the other hand, there are games like on the PS Vita that work perfectly well just with one screen, and anything that you overlay here would just be with their fantastic touchscreen. Now I love my PS Vita. I mean, and some of the weirder complaints that I've heard about the PS Vita is how we're only getting ports of console games, and quite honestly, the fact that we can play console games on a portable system, that's an amazing feat, and I don't think people really understand their own argument when they're saying, oh, but it's only console level games. Who cares? Sure, I guess you have a legitimate complaint if you own a lot of these console games, but I'm not sure if I have too much to say about that, other than I don't care, because I think every publisher has to start somewhere, and porting over a game is probably, and this is speaking as a non-programmer, porting over a game probably teaches them a lot about the system and for their next version. Like I'll look forward to whatever Metal Gear pops up on the PS Vita after the dev team dealt with porting over Metal Gear Solid HD. Same thing with Capcom and their Street Fighter Tekken, and we see that Atlas already did a beautiful job with Persona 4 Golden, and I'm looking forward to the next iteration of Gravity Rush. And so a lot of these games are amazing, and I absolutely adore them. And unfortunately, another problem with the 3DS is the region lock. A quarter of my portable games are always imports, and the fact that there is a region lock is just really daft, because there's so many games that get released in Japan that will never see the light of day here, but now you just can't get them. And this is something that the PS Vita allows me to do. I can import Taiko no Tatsujin or the Miku Hatsune game or Senran Kagura, and I just can't do that with the 3DS. I'm stuck with the crap games that they believe that only the American audience would want. Like Super Mario and all the other kind of Mario Brother offshoots. So yeah, that would be the other problem, the forced region lock. Yeah, so let's see if I can. There's that. Yeah, and so I guess to round out this this kind of review / rant, I think the PS Vita is an amazing system. I think it does a lot of things right. It's got that second analog stick, which this thing foregoed, and it's almost impossible to find a Circle Pad Pro for the XL. I believe that I've heard its existence in Japan, but I'm not going to look for it because this system is already pretty large and I barely use it, And so, you know, they've kind of put all the R&D money towards this 3D feature and didn't really think that maybe guys would need a second analog stick. Although I have to compliment Nintendo, this second analog stick feels a lot better than the PS Vita version. But PS Vita version, I have 2 friggin' analog sticks and I can deal with it. It's not really that much of a problem. I don't really care that much. It's not that huge a deal. So whoever is, you know, saying, oh, the Vita analog sticks suck, so what? It's a little bit uncomfortable, but really, you know, it's not like you're starving in Algeria, if that place exists anymore. Yeah, so there's that. I welcome any questions or comments. Once again, I want to repeat that this review / rant isn't supposed to be super angry, and I will not ever be offended if somebody has a different opinion from me. Unless, of course, that opinion is a bizarre opinion, those type of opinions that you can only find online, where the opinions are all based on erroneous facts, and they kind of present it in a very factual way, like, I don't like the PS Vita because people in Sony rape kittens. I don't know what you're talking about, dude. That has no bearing on anything. And I'm not sure you can confirm that. So, I'll leave honest responses and feedback to anybody who leaves a question, once again. And, you know, have at it. Let's have